The dilemma that we face with regards to the inevitability of time's passing is not unique to us in our present day. If anything, it has in one way or another been the source of many of the underlying anxieties within us for millennia. Time is a priceless asset, an irreplaceable commodity that all living beings are allotted an unknown but finite amount of. It does not stop in its forward motion, and we can do no different to alter its course. It comes as no surprise that a great many individuals feel distress at how to best make use of the small portion of days they are given. This issue is an ageless enigma. Some of the greatest minds of many years past dedicated entire works to exploring our position within the river of time. For Seneca, the ancient Roman Stoic philosopher and statesman, the matter was of such pertinence that he entitled an entire essay, De brevitate vitae, translated to English as On the Shortness of Life. In this essential piece of classical philosophy, Seneca paints a cautionary tale to his readers about the ease with which many people let precious hours and days slip by, writing, "So it is. We are not given a short life, but we make it short, and we are not ill-supplied, but wasteful of it. Just as when ample and princely wealth falls to a bad owner and is squandered in a moment, but wealth, however modest, if entrusted to a good custodian, increases with use, so our lifetime extends amply if you manage it properly." There is no greater tragedy than a wasted life. It is well known that many men and women dedicate their entire lives to fulfilling personal vices and pleasures, many times to their own detriment and with no regard for the hours stolen away. This is among the more obvious modes of immoderation that are associated with time wasting. Seneca, however, is privy to a much more inconspicuous and subtle misuse of one's existence. Using the Latin term occupatus, or what can be translated as occupied, he describes the condition wherein our mind becomes consumed with something detached from our immediate presence. Anxious thoughts about past blunders or perceived future strife readily overtake our present experience. We pace around nervously in the hours preceding an event of importance, allowing our worry to distract us from the invaluable minutes disappearing away. Even at moments of leisure, vacation, or idleness, which we spend our working hours yearning for, there is a tendency to become distracted by a subtle uneasiness, a quiet dreading of the inevitable return to our mundane routine. In each and all of these preoccupied states, the pace of time does not stall. As Seneca would put it, life will follow the path it started upon, and will neither reverse nor check its course. It will make no noise, it will not remind you of its swiftness. Silent, it will glide on. It will not prolong itself at the command of a king or at the applause of the populace. Just as it was started on its first day, so it will run. Nowhere will it turn aside, nowhere will it delay. And what will be the result? You have been engrossed. Life hastens by. Meanwhile, death will be at hand. The preoccupied mind is a negligent one. It leads itself astray, seeking out and attaching itself to disconcerted abstractions and judgments. This is only intensified by the presence of outward means of distraction, a particularly potent problem in our modern society. These compounding fixations pull the consciousness entirely away from what is before it. Distributing our focus into so many convoluted pathways, we end up accelerating our perception of time's passage. We become so fixated on the maelstrom in our head that we cannot properly take part in the potential life experiences around us. As D.T. Suzuki, a scholar of Zen Buddhism, explains, no consciousness can harbor more than a very small number of simultaneous conceptions. All else must lie in shadow, withdrawn from sight. To increase the simultaneous content creates immediately a dimming of consciousness, confusion, in fact, to the point of disorientation. Consciousness does not simply demand, but is, of its very essence, a strict limitation to the few, and hence, the distinct. The task before us is a daunting one, but entirely within ourselves to resolve. If we are to maximize each moment, it requires a commitment to limiting the time we spend in needless preoccupation on a subconscious level. Our mental capacities, sublime as they may be, are restricted to a fleeting present and cannot afford to be erratic. The proper course to take is to cultivate a tranquil mind, a self-possessed understanding of ourselves that is unclouded by empty neurosis. Procuring inner serenity gives us the ability to not only fully grasp today, but also allows us to properly reflect on our experiences without distraction. A callous effort will not do, as our intellect has a tendency to become subordinate to our animalistic desires and compulsions in an instant. All too easily we relent, failing to stop the torrent of aimless thoughts and urges, relinquishing control over the very thing we should have ultimate mastery of. Our time, in turn, immediately depreciates in value, wasted on internal mirages. To take back the reins requires a perpetual effort, perhaps even a lifetime of continued trial and error. To many, this may seem to be insurmountable, and understandably so. The dynamic nature of our minds can be so bewildering that relenting to it can seem the only viable option. But it need not be so. The duality between our higher reasoning and the compulsive thoughts and emotions within us can expedite our destruction, but it also provides us an avenue to lasting equilibrium. The objective is to find what unique methods best cultivate our inner well-being. This may come in the form of a religious faith or a spiritual tradition. Others may find that simply gaining awareness through concentrated meditation leads to a still command of their psyche, or by seeking guidance from a wise mentor. Seneca offers his own method, stating, "Of all men, they alone are at leisure who take time for philosophy. They alone really live. For they are not content to be good guardians of their own lifetime only. They annex ever age to their own. All the years that have gone before them are an addition to their store. Unless we are most ungrateful, all those men, glorious fashioners of holy thoughts, were born for us. For us, they have prepared a way of life. By other men's labors, we are led to the side of things most beautiful that have been wrested from darkness and brought into light." Our task, then, if we are to maximize each moment as it arrives, is to understand the necessity of mental tranquility and to discover our individual means of attaining it. Doing so mitigates the debilitating effect of preoccupied thoughts on our already brief lifetime. That is not to say that it is a simple and effortless endeavor. On the contrary, many men and women will spend countless years or even decades attempting to wrest control of their innermost being from the barrage of distracting deliberations. Many more will succumb to themselves, failing to even recognize the day's atrophying before it is far too late. The journey, however, is one worth undertaking for all individuals, regardless of circumstance, for the reward is the sovereignty of our mind against the tide of time. Like the maestro harmonizing the independent melodies of each instrument in a symphony, we become the conductors of our consciousness, unshackled and fully in command of every second that is ours.